Okay, so let's get started with this. The first thing we want to discuss is layers. So everything right now is on one layer. That's going to make our lives really difficult, right? If you need to select things, you need to work through this model. If everything's on one layer, it's going to be a pain to select things, right? You won't be able to turn anything on or off, so on and so forth. So make sure everybody, let's go on to the layers and let's discuss the layers a little bit. So up on the top here we have new layer. So when you click this, everybody go ahead and click it. It automatically brings up a layer for you there, and you can name it automatically, or you can just hit enter. And so it brought up a second layer for us there. So now that we have a layer selected, but it's not obviously it doesn't have a check mark, right? So since it's missing a check mark, I have it selected, but it is not the actually selected layer. If you double click, it'll change it, right? It went from 1 to 2. Wherever the check mark is, that is your current layer. Right here, we have new sublayer. Now, what sublayers are is if you have a layer selected and you hit sublayer, it's going to bring a layer within a layer. So that way, you can open and close and hide things, right? So let's say you start having hundreds of layers and you want to be able to start organizing and categorizing these things. This is the best way to do it. Okay. Next to this is delete. So let's say if we don't want to do a sublayer, we can just delete it. Next to that is a move, and there's a move up and down. So if you want to move through your layers, and you see that the layer, when you do this, it also changes which layer is the selected one, the one that you're going to draw on. So moving up, we'll change it to there. Oh, I'm sorry, it's actually moving the layer itself altogether. It's not changing anything. So it's moving the where it is in this box. So I could move layer 2 up to the top if I wanted to, and then maybe I want to name it something. Let's say if you want to name it, you double click, right? Double click real fast, rapidly click, and it'll get this dialog box, and then you can erase what you want, and maybe we want to say, you know, street underscore curves, and hit enter. So there we go. We've titled our first layer. Now next to this, right here, we have the filters. So if you click filters, you can see what it says. It has layers. You have a lot of choices here. You can either lock layers, turn on and off layers, and you can even select layers, so on and so forth. And that's pretty much good for now. I don't think you'll need too much more than that. You can see that there's a lot of information that goes on in the actual layer area. I'm going to open this up a little bit more. You can see it shows how it's going to print. It's going to tell you what color. It's going to tell you what line type it is. And these things you can click on them and change them if you want to. For now, we're just going to use the continuous line. If you begin to apply materials to your layers, you can do it here by clicking that, and we'll get into this a little bit later. And it gives you a dialog box, and it's your layer materials, and you can add materials to this, and it's good for rendering. Here is the actual color of your layers. Let me open that up. So it says color. So if you double click this, it's going to bring up a dialog box, and this dialog box is going to allow you to change the color, right? And so it kind of goes on forever. And you can also go in here and sort of choose what color you want. Scroll around if you want to go to green, and maybe you want like a green like that, or maybe you just want to choose green. And then you can see right here it's changed the color, right? Next to this is lock. Locking allows you to, let's say if you lock a layer, when you do that, you will not be able to select it. See how I'm able to select all this information? It's on layer 1, right? If I lock layer 1, now I cannot select it. So that's good. Maybe you don't want information to be able to be selected, right? So you can select other information. The best way to avoid selecting everything is to either lock it, or with this light bulb here, it says on, you can turn it off. So everybody just do that, get comfortable with doing it. And then here, this lets you know where your current layer is. Now you noticed all this information was smushed up and you couldn't read it because typically you don't need to read it. As soon as you know the icons, you'll understand, you know, what it is. Like it'll become second nature. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to go into top view because we're working two-dimensionally right now, not three-dimensionally, so we don't really need perspective. Let's say everything right now is on layer 1. I want to begin to transfer lines into the street curves layer, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I know which layer is the street curves layer, and I'm going to have you guys all selected as well. And so go ahead and click right around right here, right? Now you see the selection menu comes up, right? And there's more than one curve to choose from. If you highlight over them, you see how it selects more than one? And so it's giving me the option, which curve do I want to select, right? So I want to select the bottom one. It might be top for you, but it's essentially that shape right there. So can everybody select that shape for me? Now once you have that shape selected, what I want to do is I want to send this to the street curves layer. So now that I have it selected and it's highlighted, when you go over here to the layers, you right click on layers and you say change object layer. I'm going to leave this open for a second. Change object layer. When you do that, you'll notice you see a green line, right? And it's kind of hidden by other lines because there's a lot of lines on top of each other, but it's right there, right? And so let's say I'm going to turn off layer 1. There's our layer that we just transferred. So I'm going to pause and make sure everybody did this.